Come out with us and play. Love your London. Have a banana. Welcome back. Normal service has resumed, and we have a good 5 episodes still to share with you about the Angel Islington and its surroundings. Today we talk about a famous clown, a famous theatre, we visit a couple of pubs, of course, and we get to visit the oldest model railway society in the world. Join us and the pigeons as we bring you Pentonville! Hello, welcome back. It's been a while, isn't it? We're back in the area of Angel. Now, we have had a few specials in between. And in the area of Angel, we've dealt with the northeast of Angel. We've dealt with the north to the east of Angel and a little bit to the north of Angel, and obviously Angel itself. For about the next 5 episodes, we're going to be dealing mainly with the areas to the northwest, to the west, and to the southwest of Angel. So today we are starting off where we're at the moment on the old Pentonville Road, which is part of the new road. This area that we're covering today is mainly Pentonville, to the west and to the southwest. Now Pentonville's name comes from a chap called Henry Penton. He designed a load of streets coming off this area, and the village that grew up alongside became known as Pentonville. Now the name Pentonville probably rings a bell in lots of you because you may think of Pentonville Prison. That actually isn't here. Pentonville Prison is up towards Caledonian Roadway. We're not covering that today. Today we're covering the very beautiful and fun area of Pentonville. So come and join us and we'll show you a few of the secrets. Do remember, if possible, to hit that subscribe button and you can become a patron via Patreon. You can, but the main thing is, please just like this video, share this video, share it on your social media. It really helps with the algorithms. Chat down the bottom as well. That also helps YouTube know that we are relevant. We are relevant. We love you, London. Okay, so we're coming to a very interesting little park here, and I've got loads to tell you about it. Okay, so we are actually at the resting place of Henry Penton, but this is not called Henry Penton Park or Pentonville Park. It's actually called Joseph Grimaldi Park. Now, who was Joseph Grimaldi, you may ask? We're going to be talking quite a lot about Joseph Grimaldi here. Nothing to do with the Grimaldi family from Monaco. Absolutely no relation at all. Probably if you go really far back it may be, but certainly not in recent history. This is Joseph Grimaldi Park. Now, Henry Penton's gravestone is going to be quite hard to find because most of the gravestones were moved, tucked away somewhere over here, but there is one gravestone that we can find quite easily, and that is the person to whom this park is named. This is actually not the original location of his grave. We're going to show you that in a second, but this is where Mr. Joseph Grimaldi is. Well, he's buried over there, but this is where they've put his grave. Joseph Grimaldi was the father of modern clowning, that's how he was known. And also buried here is Charles Dibdin, and he used to run the Sadler's Well Theatre, which isn't very far from here. We'll be checking that out later as well. Now, Dibdin used to write loads of pantomimes and farces, and they were all put on at the theatre, and Grimaldi would perform in them. And his speciality was the Harlequin. The Pierrot character with the famous white face, and that role is still known in his honour today as the Joey. Now, though Joseph Grimaldi made loads of money during his clowning career, he didn't die rich, unfortunately, because it was a very energetic role, the Harlequin. He sustained a lot of injuries, and when you're injured, there isn't really so much use for a clown, sadly. It's quite a tragic end to his life. We'll be telling you a little bit later, but basically he ended up a pauper and an alcoholic, but he was still very much loved right to this day. Now, after he died, Charles Dickens, who had seen Grimaldi perform, edited Grimaldi's memoirs. You'll see here on your screen that it's written by Boz. Boz was of course Dickens' nom de plume, under which he also wrote the Pickwick Papers. Also note that it says illustrations by George Cruikshank. This will be relevant later on in this episode. Okay, so where he was buried is actually just over here. This here is the real burial place of, to the right, Joseph Grimaldi, and to the left, Charles Dibdin of Sadler's Wells. And you know what? I feel like a bit of a dance. Do you feel like a bit of a dance? Let's have a dance on his grave.
No, you do it, wait.
Okay.
Oh. Ooh, this one doesn't work. I think you need a little more weight, Tristan. You get on there. Oh, there you go.
Okay, doesn't work very well as you can see.
Well, it works better when you do it.
No, it just obviously, I think, it needs a little bit of work done to it, obviously. I'm going to tell you a little bit about this. Now, that song that you were supposedly going to hear, that is actually Hot Codlins. And it's a song that was made famous by Joseph Grimaldi in Sadler's Wells and other places. This song, Hot Codlins, is really the tune that made Grimaldi famous. It's a song in which he would dress up in his customary whiteface, pretending to be a gin-addled old woman selling roasted apples in Pentonville. And I'm going to read from here now. A little old woman, her living she got by selling hot codlins, hot, hot, hot. And this little old woman who codlins sold, though her codlins were hot, she felt herself cold. So to keep herself warm, she thought it no sin to fetch for herself a quarter of
gin!
And everyone would shout out in the audience, gin! And then Grimaldi's catchphrase would be to mock, sort of like, oh, how could you? So he'd say, oh, what a shame. That was his catchphrase, oh, what a shame. He'd be like disapproving the audience for thinking that she was drinking gin, and it was something else. Now, there's lots of verses to this. I'm going to provide a link in the YouTube description so you can actually hear a clown perform it at the Joseph Grimaldi Memorial Service. It used to be held here when this was a church. It is no longer a church, so it moved to the Holy Trinity Church in Dalston. And the first Sunday in February, there's a remembrance service in which people turn up in their clown costumes. But you're going to have to wait until we get to D for Dalston for that. It's a fantastic, fascinating place. People remember not just Joseph Grimaldi, but everyone in the clowning community who have died over the years. Just a couple of streets further to the west, we're gonna just check out Colshot Street. Now, Colshot Street is sadly where Joseph Grimaldi died. We won't be able to see his house anymore, it's gone, but we're just going to quickly show you the street. Okay, so we're actually here at a Peabody Trust house. This is Grimaldi House, named in his honour. This is number 13 Colshot Street. Now, Grimaldi actually died, not here, but at number 22, or where number 22 Colshot Street would be now, which is over there. No longer there, it's now just a gap. He only lived here for the last 9 years of his life. He was in abject poverty. He'd lost all his money because he wasn't getting many more clowning gigs. I think his son was a little bit of a liability as well. But as I said, at least this house is named in his honour, because his house is no longer here. We will actually also be visiting later on in this episode a place where he lived before moving here, on Exmouth Market, which was a slightly happier time. I mean, it still wasn't very happy as his earlier life. But anyway, let's move on down here. There's something else to show you in this street. Okay, so we're at number 4 Colshot Street. You see the letters up here, MRC, that stands for the Model Railway Club. Now, according to the Guinness Book of Records, it is the oldest model railway society in the world. And we're going to go and check it out. Now, what happens is you can turn up there, you can become a member. You can also turn up there every Thursday evening for a club evening where you pay sort of £3 on the door, and they have a library in there with loads of information and periodicals about railways. So if you were to build a diorama of a railway from a certain period, you'll probably find all the pictures that you need inside the library. 5,000 books and periodicals in there. Now what they also have is they have special days where they have model rail sets set up. We actually sadly missed one a couple of weeks ago where they had their mini autumn exhibition. Let's go inside and have a little chat to them and have a look around. I'm here with Anthony Cox. He is, you are the
chair of
the
Model Railway Club, which goes back to 1910.
Right.
This is based on, it's called Lacey Dale. It's inspired by the old Midland line that used to run between Derby and Manchester through the Peak District.
Yeah.
And it's inspired by Monsaldale Viaduct and Tunnel, although the layout and the station underneath are completely fictitious.
Yes.
But it is very much set in the Derbyshire Peak District.
Sweet.
This is these are some of the club archive models we've collected over the years. Some were made by current and past members, some of whom are sadly no longer with us.
Yeah.
And various models we've acquired over the years. The original framework was constructed many years ago, but we've changed the various tracks on here, so there's most of the main gauges available, and over there we've got the control system, so you can both use traditional analog control or the more modern DCC control, and all of the tracks are switchable between those. On club nights, basically members bring any of their stock along, and first come first served to run trains on the test tracks, so anything and everything can appear on these tracks.
Yeah, and so these are different gauges, I take it?
These are all different gauges, yes. We are layout Copenhagen Fields, which is based on the goods yard behind King's Cross. Within there, they've set up they made a model of what was the original refreshment club, basically the canteen for the area. We found some fragments, or someone found some fragments of a mug, and we've now recreated these mugs now as was. These are totally modern, but based on originals that were found in the area. So
yes, and that was on display at your autumn mini exhibition, wasn't it?
It was, yes, yeah.
Nice.
This is our lower hall, which is primarily used for layout building. At the moment, actually all our various layouts are packed up. Over here, that is Copenhagen Fields. A bit behind here is the fiddle yard of Putnam, the American layout.
Yeah.
What else is here?
So the Copenhagen Fields is sort of between the two wars, is that right? Sort of.
Yes, around about 1920, 1930, and it covers the section of track just north through King's Cross. You go into a tunnel, Gasworks Tunnel, and then it goes under the North London line, and then there is Copenhagen Tunnel and so-called Belle Isle, and it models the Belle Isle section, and then slightly to the north, the first section of Holloway Bank behind Caledonian Road Tube. The railway bits, visual railway bits, are pretty accurate for the time. The spaces, the tunnels are actually a lot shorter than they really are. And actually, if you know the area well, Caledonian Road is actually at a different angle to what it is on the layout, and so on. But it's very much in the spirit of what was in that area at the time, and includes the old, what used to be the abattoirs and stockyards of Market Street, and the market and the Market Tower, which still exists, albeit these days surrounded by a a big council estate. Right.
And I believe it took a long time to build. Is that right? And people from different countries.
It's been being built since, unfortunately, our present from around about 1985, 86. it's not finished yet, although it's quite close to being finished now. The team of it is led by our president, Tim Watson, who his day job is actually a dentistry professor, so he's used to dealing with small things very carefully. And there's a very skilled carpenter and metalworker, Mike Randall, who's also his co-leader. And the pair of them have led the project for many years. But yes, a lot of people have worked on it, and there's still one member of the team who is now based in Hawaii and builds buildings, sends them in, and yes, they appear on the layout. Well, the Model Railway Club, no, we're always open to new members. We've got around 250 members. Our main club night is on a Thursdays, and the various layout groups meet at other times to suit themselves. Similarly, this building is used quite a lot by sort of railway and hobby people, which we let out. If people want to join the club, and we're always looking for new members, my first suggestion would be to come along on a Thursday evening, just ring the door and we'll show you around, and then you can join from that. The membership, the basic membership is £70 a year on a calendar year. There are some discounts for if you live out of London, younger people and those on benefits, etc. We're always open to new members.
Okay, so this is the Lexington, one of my favourite music venues still around. Actually, I remember years and years ago, I think this used to be called La Finca, used to be a Latin American themed place, but now it's there for sort of modern indie electronica. We've seen quite a few things. We can't actually play them for you now because of copyright reasons, but you'll be able to see on your screen a fantastic gig that we saw on the 28th of February 2019 by Jaakko Eino Kalevi, who I guess you could say is like the Finnish Daði Freyr, or maybe Daði Freyr is the Icelandic Jaakko Eino Kalevi, I'm not sure. But as I said, I can't actually play you the music in this video, but in the description below you'll be able to find the video that we filmed of him playing Flexible Heart right here in the Lexington. Fantastic. We're really tempted to come here on Saturday night because the Masonics are going to be here, and later on in the year Osric Tentacles are going to be here as well. Really tempted to go that, but the Masonics, they were part of that whole Medway scene thing, sort of garage sound. I absolutely love it. Anyway, we're going to cross the road now to Claremont Square. So a few things to show you here. Okay, so now this actually really means very little to me, but it's a hugely popular franchise, so it will mean quite a lot to some of our viewers. This is number 23, Claremont Square. Now, if you're a Harry Potter fan, you'll recognise this front as being number 12, Grimaldi Place. This was built in the 1800s. It is the Order of the Phoenix's headquarters, and therefore features in the film of that name. It also apparently features in Deathly Hallows Part 1. So there you go. As I said, it really doesn't mean an awful lot to me, but it will mean quite a lot to some of you. I'm far more interested in what is over here. This
reservoir.
Yes, it's a reservoir. It's a fascinating, interesting piece of engineering. I'm going to tell you a little bit about it. Now, you'll remember in episode 2 of this series on Angel, we told you a lot about the New River, which was the artificial waterway created between 1604 and 1613 by Sir Hugh Middleton, after whom so many of the local streets, squares, pubs and schools are named. Now, the water ended up in an area known as the Round Pond, which is a sort of reservoir further down there. We'll be checking that out later. That's where the New River Head is. But the pressure was not great to serve the people of the West End. It was quite good to serve people in the city, but it wasn't high enough to serve the people of the West End. So what they did, and it's a fantastic piece of engineering, about 100 years after the Round Pond, in 1708, they created this new reservoir here, and this is called Upper Pond, still in use today. What they did is they pumped the water from the Round Pond to fill this pond. And because it was higher up, it was much better for the water pressure for users in the West End of London. And about 150 years later, in 1855 to be precise, it was drained and deepened. And here's a very interesting drawing from November 1856 of them carrying out these works. So this was all then covered over by this nice green raised park. We can't actually get into it. And it was filled with water, and today it is still run by Thames Water and is one of London's main reservoirs. But yet tourists still come and look at this fictional house pretending to be a completely different address for a kids' film. But really the real reason for coming to Claremont Square is to look at this, I think. And just over here, just off Claremont Square, we have a street named Crookshank Street. Now you'll recall I was just talking about Crookshank. His name appeared as the illustrator on Boz, aka Charles Dickens' account of the memoirs of Joseph Grimaldi. Crookshank, very important illustrator. George Crookshank was known as the modern day Hogarth. All these bicycles.
Bike tour.
Okay. So Crookshank is known as the modern day Hogarth. I think you'll appreciate here one of his pictures on your screen. This is actually of Fagin. He was really famous for illustrating many of Dickens' books. Lots of famous drawings and caricatures. Here's an interesting picture that that Crookshank drew of Joseph Grimaldi. This is later on in his life. You see him sitting there on his chair because he was not as active in these days. And here he is reciting the Hot Codlins song. Yeah, so this is number 71, Amwell Street. This is actually, obviously, as you can see, this is where George Crookshank lived from 1824 to 1849, not far from Crookshank Street, just over there. So back then, this was actually Middleton Terrace. I do believe that Sir John Betjeman unveiled this plaque back in 1973. We haven't actually finished talking about illustrators in this episode. This whole area is going to become quite important in the whole world of illustration because we just crossed the road. Jesus. Sharon, can you take the camera? You take the camera, it's filming. I can't do both. I almost got run over then.
Silly Billy.
Okay, so so this whole area is going to become quite important in the whole world of illustration. We'll show you a little bit about that later on in this episode. But first of all, let me just tell you a little bit about this pub here. This is a Georgian Monkey, or whatever it's called this week. It was called the Emerald Arms a couple of years ago. Before that it was called the Fountain, which in fact was the original name far back. And before that it was called Meat Lover. But before that, in other words, before 2013, it was known, and had been known for the previous 30 years, as a fantastic Filthy McNasty's Whiskey Cafe.
Oh yes, I remember that place.
I certainly remember that place. It was a fantastic bar, an outstanding rock and roll pub. It's now sadly another faceless gastropub that can't even keep
I like your sign.
We can't even keep a name for more than a couple of years, let alone its clientele.
Well, at least the sign's hand painted.
Now in this pub, you'd actually regularly find, when it's known as Filthy McNasty, you'd actually regularly find Shane McGowan from the Pogues and the Popes. He'd be very regularly drunk, smoking a cigarette in the corner. He was actually one of the part owners for a while.
God, I think I remember that guy.
Of course, yes. I don't know when you see him.
And he would often fall off his stool.
That's right. Yep. Yeah. Still going on strong today. Well, I wouldn't actually call it strong.
Dude, you have to hold still. You look like the bird shat on your nose again. You got it all down on your face.
Come on.
Dude, hold still. Do you want me to help you or what?
Yeah, but continuity.
Hold still. I should edit that out. You got crumbs all in there. Get the crumbs.
Right, okay. Come on. Now another regular here was Johnny Depp. Now he used to come here all the time with Kate Moss. And Johnny Depp used to often sleep upstairs. Now of course Johnny Depp and Kate Moss broke up in 1998. Now working behind the bar was a young chap called Pete Doherty. And he'd just got his new band to have its first proper gig here. The Libertines actually formed in 1997, but they'd only really played guerrilla gigs in their flat in Bethnal Green, which we'll be checking out when we get to B, so don't forget to subscribe so you don't miss that. We'll be checking out where Pete Doherty of the Libertines used to live with Carl Barat. But as I said, Pete Doherty used to work behind the bar here. Now I'm pretty sure that he served Kate Moss a pint, but they do supposedly, because obviously Pete Doherty and Kate Moss became an item, so supposedly Pete Doherty met Kate Moss at her birthday party in 2005, and that's when they started going out. But as I said, I'm pretty sure that he must have poured her the odd pint here in the late 90s. So the Libertines didn't actually really have any major success until 2002, of course, which is when they released their single What a Waster, and then their first album, Up the Bracket. Now Pete Doherty would get very, very wasted here too, and he'd often end up kipping upstairs after a long shift pulling pints. And when the Libertines became really huge, it's quite funny, there used to be loads of teenage girls used to come in here and ask to see the place, the Dirty Mattress, where Pete Doherty used to sleep. I'm sure it's completely changed upstairs now. There's probably a creche or something, or some place where they keep board games, I don't know. But it's really sad to see pubs become gentrified like this, I think. I mean, it used to be such a dirty old place. Do you remember Bo the dog? Remember that dog that used to be here, Bo?
It is not even close to how it used to be. Oh my god. It looks so different. The bar doesn't even look like it's in the same place. No. It used to come around down the side.
I know. Do you remember Bo the dog?
I can't say I do.
Oh, you'd remember Bo if you saw Bo.
Hung out in there, but they were more of the two-legged variety.
Yeah.
I speak from personal experience.
No, I mean, pretty much. This was such a countercultural place. They'd have talks here. You'd have Ken Casey. When he gave a talk here once. Ken Casey. Actually, over here on your screen, you'll see a photograph of me in Oregon in 2017 with Ken Casey's son Zane in front of Further. The bus.
Yes, I remember that guy.
And in fact, Ken Casey's son helped to paint that bus when he was just 3 years old, and Zane actually gave me a little replica of it as well, which was really nice. Yes. And actually, my friend Stuart Home used to come here as well. I believe he gave a few talks as well in here. It's a terrible loss to the community. At least they still have the Lexington up the road for the locals' rock and roll needs. But this was much more than a rock and roll pub. This was counterculture. This, sadly, is history. So this is Marjorie Street. Now I've always been fascinated by this building here. This building is called Charles Rowan House. And what I really like about it is how different it looks inside. We're going to have a little walk into their courtyard at the moment, but it doesn't feel English at all. It's a very continental, it's actually an expressionist form of architecture. Absolutely love it. Now this building was built in the 1920s for married quarters of Metropolitan policemen. Now there have been women working for the Metropolitan Police Force since 1918, and from 1923 they had full powers of arrest, but I don't know whether this place was eligible for police women and their husbands, but it's certainly eligible for two policemen.
Tristan, watch where you're walking. There.
Okay, no, okay.
Yeah.
Now when we go through this courtyard, I don't know you, but it just doesn't feel that we're in London. It feels so much more continental. It's been a council estate since 1974. It's Grade 2 listed, which is fantastic. But it was pretty run down in the 1990s. I mean, I wouldn't have felt very secure walking through this brandishing a GoPro. It probably wouldn't have lasted very long, but right now it's extremely safe. Let's have a little walk through this fantastic expressionist courtyard. Now, does this feel like London to you? I actually love it, with the flowers on the balconies. And just let's have a little walk through.
You take
Look at this. Isn't this fantastic, with this lovely table here? As I said, I wouldn't have felt safe holding this GoPro back in the 90s. Well, that wouldn't have been possible anyway, but you know, an equivalent expensive piece of
but nice people
cinematic photographic equipment. But just look at this. Isn't this absolutely fantastic? I'd love to live here.
Absolutely.
And you wouldn't say that in the 90s, so I'm telling you.
In the 90s you would have been able to afford it.
That is true.
Handsome. Boy, you're quite wary, aren't you? Pussycat.
Okay, so I spoke to you earlier about the New River Head and about the round pond. This is actually where it used to be. This is where, before this was pumped from the water from here up to the upper pond, this is where the round pond used to be, and this is where this area is called the New River Head. Now, it would be nice to actually see this for ourselves. There is, in fact, in there remains of the round pond, and also there are remains of the Greyfriars Conduit Head, which dates from medieval times. It's all Grade 2 listed. In fact, some of it is Grade 2 star, but it's all out of bounds at the moment because now I did read that there was somewhere around here a public access viewpoint, but I've walked around here and I can't find it. Unfortunately, this used to be all open, but it's now sort of all closed down because it's all been converted into luxury flats. Of course, this used to be run by the Metropolitan Water Board, who were successors to the New River Company, and that then became the Thames Water Authority, all under glorious public ownership. But then in 1989, Thatcher put the final nail in the coffin of the Water Board, privatising it. And of course, what did they do? They sold this fantastic property off, moved, I think, to Reading, was it? I can't remember now. Now, at least next year, the public will get access to some of this area because this is going to become the House of Illustration, part of this. Now, the House of Illustration used to be based in Granary Square. We're going to be checking out Granary Square in the next episode, probably, or the one after that, near King's Cross. But it's moved during the pandemic. They decided they're going to move it here. This is going to be renamed the Quentin Blake Centre for Illustration, and I'm sure you remember Quentin Blake. Well, he's actually Sir Quentin Blake now. He's the one who used to draw all those fantastic drawings to those Roald Dahl books. I'm sure you remember Charlie and the Chocolate Factory and Big Friendly Giant and all those fantastic books. He did the illustrations. So in fact, they're going to be showing here 40,000 illustrations by Sir Quentin himself, but there'll also be illustrations by other artists as well. And that's going to be moving into the Engine House in autumn 2022. I think the Engine House is that one over there. I think the old museum charged about £8 to get in, so I dare say that the new one will charge as well. It's not one of the national museums that are free, but it's going to be fantastic, and hopefully we'll be there when it opens. So do subscribe to our channel and you'll be the first to know about it. Subscribe, share, like, you know what to do. Click that notification bell as well. That way you get to hear about it. Hopefully we'll get to the press launch next autumn. Okay, so here we are at the Sadler's Wells Theatre. It's been the theatre here since 1683. The property was owned by Richard Sadler. He was opening the Sadler's Music House. And, well, he discovered the well, which is what this theatre is named after. So the water of this well was iron rich. The name for that is chalybeate. Very strange name, as you'll see it spelt there at the bottom of your screen. Chalybeate, that's how you pronounce it. This was chalybeate water, and it was thought that this water has some extremely healthy properties. I mean, I suppose it's irony, it's good, iron is good for you. But at the time, they thought this well was quite unique, which is why this area, when you opened the theatre, loads of well-to-do people flocked to it because they wanted to not just see the theatre, but also to try the chalybeate waters. Richard Sadler claimed that the springs would be effective, and I quote, against dropsy, jaundice, scurvy, green sickness and other distempers to which females are liable, ulcers, fits of the mother, virgin's fever and hypochondriacal distemper. So the initial clientele at Sadler's musical house actually tended to be quite aristocratic. Now unfortunately this didn't last long, largely because loads of other wells were discovered around here, so they realised that actually this wasn't that exclusive after all. The class of the clientele plummeted, and by 1711, just 28 years after the discovery of the well and the opening of the theatre, this place was characterised, and I quote, as a nursery of debauchery.
All right, the riffraff moved in.
That's correct. I mean, it was so bad that you used to have people called link boys hanging outside with a torch, so that the posh people, I mean, just to try and keep some of the posh clientele a little bit longer, so they could easily get home through Spa Fields, which is just up there. Because basically, if you walked through Spa Fields back then, you'd get mugged straight away. Now, link boys would illuminate people's ways with a torch, and it was in fact considered to be the lowest form of employment in the land. And in fact, that's where we get our expression, he's not good enough to hold the light up to someone. That basically comes from the link boy illuminating someone's way through places like Spa Fields. And if you're not good enough to hold a light up to someone, that means that you're not even good enough to be their link boy. That's where we get the expression.
You could always go into finance though.
That is true, yep. Now, it was Charles Dibdin who, as you'll recall, was buried beside Joseph Grimaldi, and we danced on his grave earlier on in this episode. He's the one who actually turned things up a notch, and he made this a place to visit. Now, he took advantage of the water, and he introduced it into his productions by installing a large water tank as part of the staging. If you need a waterfall, easy. If you need a swimming scene, easy. A patriotic play about a successful British sea battle, no problem. Bring it on. So this was the only theatre in town that could do this, and it turned into.
And I went here years ago with my friend, and we saw a dance show with a flooded floor. It was so cool, and the dancers were like sliding around and swinging on
Was it
it.
meant to have a flooded floor?
It was a
I wonder if they
floor.
used. Actually, that's interesting. I wonder if they actually used the water from the chalybeate springs
I don't know about
underneath.
that, but it was really neat.
No, I mean
They were pushing themselves around. On
Yeah,
the
probably.
bellies.
That's really interesting, because that's in tradition, because they still use the chalybeate waters to this day.
Okay, well that
Because
makes sense.
the air conditioning in here uses the water not from London Mains, but they bring it up. They pump it up from the water underneath here.
Cool.
So it's very likely that they used the actual water, especially in today's more ecologically minded times. They probably actually used the water themselves that they brought up from the wells. And it was here where Joseph Grimaldi developed his Joey the Clown persona, and it was Charles Dibdin who turned him into the star that he became. Okay, but if you fancy a drink before, or maybe in the break, but before seeing a production here at Sadler's Wells, you can't do worse than come here to the Shakespeare's Head. Fantastic little pub. This is a family-run pub, run by Jason Reynolds. It's been in his family for years and years. It's really nice to come to a place that still is run and it's not been gentrified like so many other places around here. This is the Shakespeare's Head. It's actually got a lot of connections to the Sadler's Wells. Let's go and have a drink. Okay, so we're here at the Shakespeare's Head. This has been a family pub since, well, you've been running it for 39 years, or your family has.
39 years my family's been running it.
This is Jason Reynolds, by the way.
Hello
He's
there.
the publican, landlord.
Nice to meet you.
Same here.
Greetings.
Yeah, we've been here for 39 years. My family's had the pub. One of the longest serving pubs, family-run pubs in the area. Mum and Dad, Sharon, all my sister, wife, aunts, uncles, everyone behind the bars, related or semi-related. And yeah, you know, we're one of the last surviving family-run pubs in the area,
so many of them have closed down now, or they haven't closed down. They've been gentrified, and you just don't recognise them.
Parts of chains, and we try and keep. We've got a very good regular trade. We've got a tremendous relationship with Sadler as well, across the road. So you get a lovely diverse mix of theatre goers, regulars, and it's just this outdoor space is great. So
fantastic.
It's been tough the last 18 months. Been very tough.
Bet.
With all the close downs and etc.
But things are picking up again. And did you do takeouts and stuff during the pandemic?
Didn't do so much takeouts. Obviously, the theatre was closed. A lot of our regulars, we didn't go along those lines. But when we reopened, we had screens up. Obviously, the outdoor space came in very handy.
Yeah, of course.
That kind of stuff. But we wasn't really sort of making any money. It was just keeping the cogs turning. And but where it's a family pub, obviously, families.
That's great.
Get together. We've got a great regular trade, and as I say, Sad as well is very good to us. And
you do food here as well and stuff?
We only do a very small sort of toasted sandwiches kind of stuff. Where every other shop round here is food, so you've got to concentrate on what you're good at, and
You do the drink.
we do the drink.
And the good company.
Absolutely.
Good company, that's it. That's a pub for you. Thank you for your time.
Thank you
That's
very much.
fantastic. And God bless everyone. Have a lovely Christmas.
Thank you.
Lovely couple.
Lovely.
Love
Thank
you,
you.
London.
All right. Okay, that was nice, wasn't it? Not the only pub round here. There's a little tiny little pub here, called the Harlequin. Now, guess what it's called, the Harlequin? Of course, it's Joe Grimaldi, named after him because of his. Well, it's Sadler's Wells is what made him famous. The Harlequin, very small pub. Sadly, we can't go in there because it doesn't open until 4 p.m. It's very, very narrow. Really interesting architecture outside. Let's go and have a little look. There's also a speech of Joe Grimaldi on the wall, framed. As I said, we can't actually show it to you today, but just take our word for it. It has a bell in there that will ring when if you've gone there for your drinks. 5-minute warning bell. Obviously they do have a bar inside Sadler's Wells as well. I absolutely love it. Jesus.
All right, silent mic.
Far. Did you see that?
You're on the street, buddy.
Did you see that?
Yes, I heard it coming first.
Here it is, the Harlequin, established 1848.
They're open yet.
I actually love this little hidden pub, hidden among the houses. Now, originally, it probably would have had a bowed front like this one. As you can see, this place and this place have still got. I mean you to look at me, darling. Okay. So, bowed front like this one. So you see, this one and that one have got bowed fronts. Now this used to have a bowed front, but as you can see, it now has these columns. This is called a pilastered front. It's wonderful to see it in such great nick, considering how badly hit this area was by the Luftwaffe. Actually, funny enough, up there lived Brian Reeder. Brian Reeder used to live up there with the landlady of the pub. You may recognise his name. He was one of the old gentlemen who masterminded that Hatton Garden heist, the jewellery heist. He used to live up there with the landlady, Brian Reeder. Interesting character. And that whole story has been turned into quite a number of films already. A surprising thing that it only happened in 2015.
And the fire is
Christmas.
so here is the Spa Fields that I was telling you about earlier. This is actually where the bone house used to be, because this turned into a graveyard in the 1780s. So there was space here for 2,722 internments, but gradually this space got smaller and smaller. So over 50 years there ended up being 80,000 internments, far more than how many there was meant to be. And what would happen is every night bodies would be burnt in the bone house which stood here to make room for fresh burials. It's more like an early kind of cremation service, so it wasn't as official. Local residents soon found out what was going on, and because the smell was just awful, the smell of rotting old bodies and corpses and whatever, people get quite ill, so they realised quite soon what was actually happening here. They'd see all this smoke and fire coming out of the bone house, and they thought that it was on fire. In fact, it wasn't. It was Mr. Bird who used to run the bone house, drying out the coffins and burning the bodies, and that's how it was discovered. This sort of like this early illegal cremation service. Yeah, so this is now a playground, as you can see. You've got also just down there the London Metropolitan Archives, fantastic place to check out your family history, and also history of local businesses and stuff like that. Actually, funny enough, there was a fire here. Do you remember there was a fire here?
Yeah, I remember it. This big, beautiful playground here.
Well, the one down there, actually.
Yep, I used to live here for over a decade, and it was beautiful. A big wooden playground. As far as the eye could see, it was arson. Somebody destroyed it. They destroyed their own neighborhood, and they never really rebuilt it. You know, that's a lot of money. It's a real disgrace.
Yeah.
But anyway, this place is still okay. And look, there's your little bat at the top.
Now this is Exmouth Market. Now we're going to be checking out Exmouth Market in the next episode. But before we finish this episode, because we've spoken so much about Joseph Grimaldi, we really should show you just here, down here, where Joseph Grimaldi lived. Not before he died. He died just up there near the Model Railway Club, but he was here about 10 years or so before he died, 20 to 10 years before he died. Lived here 1818 to 1828. Actually, 1818 was quite a good year for him. He was doing Robinson Crusoe back then. He was making quite a lot of money. He toured the British Isles. He was playing the role of Man Friday in Robinson Crusoe pantomime, but he did fall twice, and this is what really affected his mobility. So shortly after 1818, the job started drying out because no one sadly wants a disabled clown. So it was in 1819, 1 year after moving here, that he introduced his character, Hot Codlins, which involved him sitting down on the chair as an old woman, as you saw earlier. But his health was rapidly declining, and he got sicker and sicker over the years. But at least for those few years before he moved to the other place, he was living in this really nice place on Exmouth Market. So Joseph Grimaldi, 1778 to 1837, no relation to, as I said, no relation to Prince Rainier of Grimaldi of Monaco. No, Joseph Grimaldi was one of ours. He was a Londoner. Love your London, and see you in the next episode where we'll be seeing a lot more of Exmouth Market. Next time on Love Your London, we'll be checking out the fantastic Grade 1 listed Finsbury Health Centre on Pine Street, one of the most important buildings from the past century. We take a journey on a tiny railway that used to carry letters from Mount Pleasant sorting office. Plus, of course, there's more pubs to enjoy. Till next time. From Acton Town to Wimbledon, from Brixton to beyond. Love your London. Have a banana.